Welcome back, Comeback Nation. This is Coach Kenric Atwood once again, and we're going to talk about today how to own your own bank and why. Well, first I'll tell you a little bit about me. I've been doing this for about 30 years, helping hundreds and hundreds of people to be able to transform their lives from where they were to a position of wealth using vehicles as real estate, investments, financial services. And so today we've come to the point where it's your turn, and we're going to talk about owning your own bank. Now, of course, this is a kind of a 10-hour course that I teach detail of how to own your own bank and specific tools that we have to use. But today is going to give you a good overview of the process and why you want to be involved in. And hopefully, most of all, I'm going to be able to change your thinking about your relationship with money. So let's start with some of the limiting beliefs that we normally have about money. What would some of those be, you would think? Everybody thinks, so first of all, we think that $1 can only be used one time. $1, it stands for one product, and then that dollar is gone out of our lives. Well, a lot of us have lived that way for many, many, many years, but I assure you that the wealthy are not living on that concept. $1 gets to be leveraged to be used multiple times. Let me just give you an idea. Some of you may be still W-2 employees, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's a place for that in this economy, and there's likely a place for that in your life, even though we're going to talk a little bit later about why you also want to add the entrepreneurial interest into your life, okay? Because this country was built in favor of entrepreneurs. Its tax codes, its business laws and practices are built in favor of entrepreneurs. But let's get back to it. I digress, right? And so now your employer promised you, let's say $20 per hour. So this $20 has now been reserved as a promise. Now, you're going to go to work, and he says, I'm going to give you this $20 after you've done something to earn me more than, guess what? $20. That is the first part. That's the first use of that dollar. Then that dollar is also residing in his bank, his financial institution, his savings account or checking account where it's being saved for him. That's 2. And then 3, it should be generating some type of interest. Whether it be 0.25%, 0.5%, or 1%, it's going to be generating some kind of interest. So that money is making money for him while not leaving his possession and projecting money through you through the same use of that dollar. Now, wait a minute. It's not done yet, okay? That money also, while in his account and earning interest, can stand as leverage for him to borrow more money from his institution in order to generate, guess what? More money. Exactly. So now we're on 4 uses of that dollar, right? Now we haven't even got to the fact that if this money is being placed in a bank, the bank is also leveraging the same dollar. That same 20 he promised you has been leveraged by the bank, and the bank is able to use for every $1 that they have on deposit, they're able to loan that 10 times. 10 times. So this $1 is being used 15 different times, and it still hasn't even gotten to you in its final use of pay. So now we start thinking about money in this way and that leveraging that dollar so that those dollars begin to make more dollars and stop confining our thinking, and things are going to change for you wealth-wise. Your relationship with money is going to change. Money is an employee of yours and not an employer of yours. So let's think about that. Now, let's talk about how money works in a bank setting. What do we use the bank for? What services does the bank provide for us in our lives, and how we can replace those services, and what benefits there are to replacing those services? Well, first of all, it serves as a place of storage for our money. That's one. It serves as a place that's supposed to or promises to give us interest or pay us for keeping our money. So they kind of, the idea of interest is they're giving us something of value for holding our money and giving them the ability to utilize the money to make more money. So they give us a portion of the profits, a small, tiny, minuscule 0.25% portion of the profits, but still it is a portion, right? Now, the other thing we do with money is it remains liquid in the bank, which means that we can get to it when we need it. Even though the bank charges us in many cases to get to it, we can get to it. So it remains liquid in the bank. That's great, right? And the bank is supposed to keep that money safe for us, safer than keeping it under the mattress, because if somebody breaks into your house and takes your money out from under your mattress, it's not FDIC insured, which means there's nobody that's going to replace that money. You're just really kind of out of luck. So now, let's talk about those services, the liquidity. How can we do that? How can we gain profit on our money? How can we store our money while still having access to it? How can we supplant these things by our own methods and our own processes? Well, the one question we want to ask ourselves is, why do we want to do that? Well, didn't I mention earlier that the bank is able to leverage your money 10 times? And that's money which gets made profit for the bank. How about starting to use some of that profit for yourself? How about leveraging your money and borrowing money from yourself and paying yourself back instead of paying other people back? Does that make any sense? Can you see where that might be a profit to you? So now let's talk about another limiting belief with regard to money. One of the other limiting beliefs with regard to money is that my mom always told me when I was young, she said, I want to buy it in cash. If I don't buy it in cash, I don't need it. I can't afford it if I can't buy it in cash. Everything doesn't have to be financed. Well, I want to submit to you this, is that everything you purchase is financed. Every single item you purchase. Well, Ken, what are you saying to me? I'm saying that when you purchase a loaf of bread, it's financed. When you purchase a car, it's financed. Whether you bought it in cash to the dealer or whether you bought it by the use of a financial institution, it is financed. How is that possible? I saved up my money and I put my money down. I wanted to buy a car that was $30,000. And I went and put $30,000 and I bought the car. Now I have the title. Yes, you have the title on a depreciating asset, which is another conversation for another day. But great, you have the title. But what did you finance that with? I bought it in cash. Well, no, you actually bought it in cash, but you borrowed profit from your future to pay for it. How much more money would that $30,000 have made in your possession, in your hand, if it was gaining interest the whole time, from now until forever? How much more money would that $30,000 have been worth? Well, you leveraged that more money that you could have made off the $30,000 in your possession for the possession of the car right now. You financed it all right. You just financed it out of your future. So now for those of you who borrow the money from the institution, that's obvious, right? You're still leveraging your future because you're giving away interest to another party. You're paying someone else for the use of their money at a rate that is of their choosing, not yours. So no matter what you buy, whether it feels like cash or not, it's all finance. The question is, who's profiting from your finance? This is why we want to own our own bank. We want to close the circle of money. I want to close the loop of money so that once money comes into me, it doesn't escape. I want to close the loop of money so that when I earn money, that money will continue to be employed by me forever. Forever. Every employer wants a forever employee. Every owner of a dollar should want that dollar to work for you forever. You should never want to say goodbye to a dollar. And let me show you how we're going to do this in the process of owning your own bank. Look, we talked about a couple things. I mentioned that there are multiple uses for the dollar, right? Well, it surprised you to know this, that in the United States of America, 40 cents out of every dollar is eaten up in taxes. 40% of your income is eaten up by that guy who's not related to you but still calls himself your Uncle Sam. You know, we've all had cousins like that when we were younger. We had cousins that weren't related to us in any way, but in order to usurp their status, or for them to usurp our status, or for them to receive a benefit from being a part of our family, we go and say, that's my cousin. It's a matter of protection, or for them or for me or for us. That's my cousin. That's my uncle. That's my a fake relative. Well, Sam is doing the same thing. Sam calls himself Uncle Sam because he wants you to feel comfortable with parting with your money on a daily, weekly, monthly, and annual basis. 40 cents out of every dollar. Now, that's not all income tax. because, I mean, you do have state and federal income tax, which are sizable, but think about it. Everything you purchase, buy, sell, or use is taxed. You're taxed on rentals. You're taxed on purchases. You're taxed when you buy food, clothing, gasoline, automobiles, large purchases and small purchases. All of them carry a what? Tax. 40 cents out of every dollar goes to tax. Would you consider that to be a barrier to wealth? Absolutely, it's a barrier to wealth. So we're going to talk about how owning your own bank is going to help you solve that problem. Now, the other thing that happens is that in addition to us eating up that money in taxes, the next thing we eat up is about 34% of our income is eaten up in interest payments. Interest payments. Yes, the interest on your car note, the interest on your mortgage, the interest on your credit card. The interest on there's interest assaulting you from everywhere. 34% of your income. So wait, I use 40% of my income on my taxes, 34% of my income on my interest rates. So that leaves me about 26% of my income that I have to live off of. That's the stuff I get to use to be able to make sure I have my necessities. I got to buy food, groceries, pay for my shelter, all of that out of 26%. In fact, as I think about it, we do pretty well on 26%. But look, out of that 26%, some of that needs to go to our emergency fund, our immediate cash reserve, or our immediate cash stash that's available to us in case something happens, in case the water heater goes out, in case the engine goes out, in case the tires blow, in case any emergency happens. You need to have a liquid amount of money that you can reach and put your hands on to be able to solve those problems. Now, this will also scare you, is that the majority of Americans can't put their hand on $1,000 right now if an emergency arises. They don't have $1,000 in the bank. Their cousin not holding $1,000. Nobody's got $1,000 in case of an emergency happening. And how many emergencies are less than $1,000? Most of them are going to be able to hit you for $1,000. So here we are. You're going to put 23% towards your living and then 3% towards your savings. That is 100% of every dollar that you get in. 100%. So you said from here, Ken, where from here do I have anything to build toward wealth? Where from here, 40% I'm giving up in taxes, 34% I'm giving up in interest, 23% I'm using to live on, 3% I'm saving. Where from there can I build wealth? Because I certainly can't build wealth on 3% of my income. Even if I'm saving 3% in perpetuity, it's not going to get me wealthy. It's only 3% of 100% of what it's taking me to live every single day. So that's not going to get it done, Ken. Well, we're going to have to start learning how to tear some of these things down. Owning your own bank is going to help you with this number, the tax number. Owning your own bank is going to eliminate you paying interest to other people. Owning your own bank is going to allow you to take that 23% you live on and live on it, because you're not going to be faced with these debts assaulting you on such a high level. So if I'm able to eliminate 20% of your tax burden, it means it's just like gaining more income. If I'm able to eliminate 20% of your interest burden, it's like gaining more income without gaining more income. It makes more cash available to you to make choices on your own lifestyle. So talk to me for a minute. How many people think that it's a good idea to get Uncle Sam out of your tax life and reduce your tax liability on a daily, annual, monthly basis? If you do, just go ahead and click yes in the comments. Great. Comeback Nation, you ready for a comeback? Because these are the thoughts of comeback champions, of doing things differently than we've done them before, okay? Now, I want to just get down some nuts and bolts. I don't want to just leave you with theories. I want to get down some nuts and bolts and how this works. We're able to actually do this using what we call high cash value life insurance policies. I know the word insurance is throwing you off, but let me tell you something. High cash value policies have been around since 1879. And through hundreds of years, these policies have created wealth in multiple communities except for in your house. because you've been afraid of insurance. You've been afraid. Now, this is not just the everyday run of the mill. You just can't run out and get a whole life policy. I think it's going to accomplish these things. It's got to be structured a certain way. There's only certain companies that offer it. It's got to be put together in a specific manner for your lifestyle in order to yield you these results. But this opportunity is out here for you, and it's out here for you with free information. Understand what I'm telling you. Knowledge is powerful, and I'm trying to make you extremely powerful today, Comeback Nation. I'm trying to share some things with you that ordinarily people keep as a secret. But the secret is out today, and you're going to understand how and why by the time I'm done, this really can work for you in your life, no matter where you are. I mean, I know a lot of times people are thinking, I got to wait until I save $5,000. I got to wait until I save $50,000. I got to wait until I save $100,000. I got to wait until I pay this off. I got to wait until I pay that off. We have a strategy, a plan in order for you to get out of wherever you are and get into wherever you want to go. So I'm going to talk about some of the steps necessary for that to happen, okay? So let's start off from the very beginning. Now, the first thing you got to have is, like I said, we got to eliminate some of those limiting beliefs that has actually stood between us and our wealth. We've had wealth barriers. Okay, one of those wealth barriers we talked about is going to be taxes. The other wealth barrier we talked about is interest. I want to talk about one more wealth barrier. Bad debt. Understand that I just told you a few minutes ago that everything is being purchased. Everything is being financed. So it's not a matter of debt itself. It's bad debt. Good and bad. Is debt all the same? No. Some debt is leveraged to generate income. Some debt is leveraged to generate stuff, which has no redeeming or increasing value. For instance, we may leverage it. There's a lot of popularity in baseball cards and various items that have perceived value at the time, but that value changes based on how people feel. So now there are some things that aren't going to change. For instance, a debt that is a good debt is a mortgage debt on an income property which is generating cash flow. That's a good debt. Okay? A debt that is a good debt is a debt that you have interest paying, but you're paying the interest to yourself. Again, you're turning that into a positive for yourself. You're not touching your nest egg. You're not touching your savings. You're borrowing against that. In fact, one of the things to note is borrowed money is not taxable. So the money that I borrow from myself to buy that car, not taxable. And in addition to the fact that I'm paying myself back for buying that car at a rate of interest far lower than likely they were going to charge me to buy that car, again, more positives. Let me tell you another thing, is that when I borrow money for myself, guess what I don't have to have? A credit check. When I borrow money for myself, guess what I don't have to do? I ain't got to produce W-2s, tax returns, transcripts. I don't have to answer a lie detector test. I don't have to wear a certain color clothing. I have to jump through hoops that are on fire. I don't do any of that when I borrow money from myself. I don't have to be made ashamed because I'm too tall, too short, too light, too dark, or I don't have the right job. Because I'm borrowing money from who? Myself. And if you don't trust anybody else, you ought to be able to trust yourself. So now, those are just some sidebar pluses in owning your own bank and borrowing money from yourself. So now we'll eliminate a few of these things. This is going to be solved by owning your own bank. You're going to eliminate taxes on your profits. You're going to have good debt. You're going to eliminate bad debt. And you're going to eliminate interest being paid to outside parties. Okay? How does this work? How can this possibly work? Well, high value whole life insurance policies have been around, like I said, people have been using them for a few hundred years. And even through the Depression, they were profitable. Even when people were jumping out of windows on Wall Street, insurance companies were profitable and insurance policies were profitable. They maintained a positive return for their shareholders. Why? Because they do a thing, they provide a necessary service, but they also have been granted some tax privileges. Okay, in order to earn income or provide interest at a tax-free basis. Not just tax deferred, but tax never. We will structure something. You can structure a bank loan for yourself so that your policy will eventually pay for your retirement. You'll borrow from that for your retirement. You'll not pay that back. When you're passing, the amount of money that you borrowed will come off of your death benefit. And properly structured, your family still will not pay taxes on the money which is given to them through their insurance policy, which creates generational wealth. Come on now, generational wealth. That means that my children will be in a better situation than I am, their children in a better situation than they are, all because I took control of my finances, I took control of my money, I took control of my choices, I took responsibility for the choices that I made, and I owned my own bank. So look, let me give you an example, a real concrete example of what this looks like in a real family situation, so you can see how this kind of breaks down and what kind of sums we're talking about. So let's take a look real quick at Alice and Mike. Alice and Mike are an average American couple. They're not making extraordinary sums of money. Alice makes about $20 an hour. Mike is making about $22 to $25 an hour. Income's looking like about $31.60 and $38.25 respectively per month. That's roughly around $7,000 a month. Okay, that they're earning in income. Average debt, they got about $2,177 in monthly payments of debt every single month. $2,177. Now, the average rule in America is this, that if you have one credit card, you have 16 streams of debt. And if we look at it, it sounds enormous, but if we look at it and break it down, it's really pretty simple, okay? So now, they got $2,177 worth of monthly debt. Now, a total amount of debt of $179,300. That's the total amount of debt that they have. Now, I left out a few little details. So when I tell you that you have finance debt, you have principal balances of $179,000, you would think that'd be the total amount of debt, correct? Well, let's think about it like this. Inside that debt is their mortgage payment. And they got 29 years left on their mortgage. They are roughly 32 and 37 years old, so they're still young. 29 years left on that mortgage. They'll get paid. They'll get to paying that mortgage off right around the time they're 65 and 67, which will mean they're ready for retirement, and now they're going to be debt-free on that mortgage, okay? And hopefully, if they pay consistently, they'll be debt-free on their other debts. So we got 29 years to our debt-free date there. That's paying off for, say, they got a car in there, give it about $13,000 on the car. So when we add those numbers up, it comes about $179. But let's look at the interest over 29 years. We're really talking about another $194,000 worth of debt. So their total debt number is looking closer to $300,000 than it is looking to $200,000, isn't it? They're paying almost an additional $200,000 in interest alone over the next 29 years. What if we were able to, through the use of high value, high cash value life insurance policies, to be able to turn that number around and get completely out of debt in 7 to 10 years? What would that mean to this couple? Well, let's take a look at it. I mean, to go from $300,000 in 30 years to knocking off all your debt in 7 to 10 years. Let's say they got 20 years clear of debt. Now that $2,177, that's with them not making any more money than they're already making. I'm not counting on them earning any additional money. I'm not counting on that big fat raise. I'm not counting on any of those things. I'm not even counting on the entrepreneurial effort that I'm going to encourage you to get involved in. I'm not counting on any of that. I'm just talking about the money that they're making right now. Okay? So now, we take that same $2,177, which is no longer being applied to debt. Mortgage is paid off, credit cards paid off, car paid off, loan paid off. So this no longer attached to debt. That $2,177, we're going to now drill that into our retirement account. So now we're going to be adding this $24,000 compounded annually, compounded compounded toward our interest, using compounding interest to get us to the point of expanding that retirement account until in 29 years it can look like this. After 29 years, it can look like $1.2 million tax-free. Now, one of the reasons that's able to happen is through another simple principle, and that's called compounding interest. Now, I've talked a little bit about how you're going to finance the things that will come through your life. You're still going to have access. I'm not telling you that you're not going to, I don't want you to not go on a vacation, not eat out, not enjoy your life. But when it comes time for that vacation, you're not going to borrow that money from your credit card at 17 to 22% interest. You're going to borrow that money from yourself at 5% simple interest. So now here's another secret that we're going to talk about. Let's talk about simple interest versus compounding interest. Now, compounding interest is the thing that has been punishing you for all these years. It is the thing that every month, what they do is they say, okay, well, you're paying off a portion of your debt, but now your interest rate is charged on top of what's left, so that furthers the time a little bit, and then your interest rate is charged on top of what's left again, so that stretches out your time a little bit more, then stretches out your time a little bit more, stretches out your time a little bit more. This is how a credit card debt can last you for 20 years, and you're paying the minimum payment, because each time you make the minimum payment, it recalculates and charges you interest based on the new principal amount. And so that can go on and on and on in perpetuity. What if we flip the script on that power tool, because that's a power tool, flip the script on that power tool and start compounding interest working in our favor? Which is to say that if we're getting a simple interest, a simple interest amount, by simple I mean an interest amount that's not complex, of 5%, but it's compounded. That means that every month a little bit goes on to there, and then we recalculate. And now we're compounding that 5% interest on this amount, and we recalculate. And now on this amount, and we recalculate, and we recalculate, we recalculate, we recalculate. So now that money is growing exponentially. It's growing, it's running to grow. It's not walking along towards your wealth path. It is running towards your wealth path. And every time I add additional fuel to the fire, I'm compounding that interest even harder. That is growing at a rate fast enough to be able to get me to these numbers of $1.2 million. Plus, it's growing at a rate that is tax-free. Sam can't even get my money. This is why you want to own your own bank. It's because you want to protect yourself from taxes. You want to provide good debt, which means instead of paying everybody else, you're going to pay yourself. You want to make sure that you are always keeping a circle of money inside the family. You're not going to interrupt your flow of compounded interest from the time it starts to the time you die. That compounded interest will never be disturbed. Even though you take money, I need money to buy a house. I'll borrow that against the money that I'm putting in my account. Even though I need money to buy a car, I'll borrow that against the money that I'm putting in my account. Now, here's the great news. I'm borrowing at simple interest. What does that mean? Simple interest means that they'll charge me 5% interest. And if I take 5% of a $50,000 loan, that would be $2,500. That's how much it would cost me for that loan. That is simple interest. 5% of a $5,000 loan is going to cost me $250. Simple interest. So even though the numbers may look the same, compounding interest is outpacing simple interest every single day. So I'm still gaining profit, and I'm getting profit on a larger number over here than I would be losing over here by borrowing this $5,000 or interrupting that. And what the old way used to be was to take the money down from your insurance policy. If I take the money down from my insurance policy, I interrupt the growth of my compounded interest. I start over, which is what really happens to most of us. We save, then buy a thing. Then we start over. Then we save, then buy a thing. Then we start over. How can you possibly progress when you continue that same cyclical rut? You're saving. Then you go spend $10,000 on a vacation. Now you start saving the next day when you come back from your vacation for next year's vacation. Come on. How can you get ahead? Now you're saying probably this family looked like they were doing okay, right? Well, if they had maintained the same level of spending, say they had a 401k with $30,000 in it, just as an example, and it's compounding over the next, it's not compounding, but it's growing over the next 30 years. they would probably end up, after paying up all their debts, including their mortgage, they have a nice nest egg of about, I'm going to say probably about $60,000. So now, which would you rather have? $60K or $1.2 million? Now, there's some things that have to happen here. There's some things that got to happen, and I'm going to be, this is our honesty moment that I want to share with you. You're going to need to do some things. You're going to have some disciplines. This is not the get rich quick scheme. This is the get wealthy forever scheme. Okay? So you got to have some disciplines. You're going to have first a budget. You're going to have to know what it costs you to live. You got to know where you've been in terms of what it's cost you every day for you to live and maintain your lifestyle. And then you got to know a projected idea of what you think it's going to cost you to live in retirement. How much money do you need to comfortably live in retirement and maintain your same lifestyle? Those are two numbers that you need to know. Now, another thing that you're going to need to know also is the difference or the ability to prioritize. What debts do you need to have and what debts do you not? What things do you need to spend and what things do you not? Now, some things become kind of like, they feel like a necessity after you've experienced them. Like for me, I drink coffee every single day. And I don't drink just a casual cup. I mean, I drink coffee every single day, pretty much all day. And that may not be healthy, but that's a part of my budget, right? So that's something that I'm not willing to give up. But in order for me not to give it up, I had to write it in my budget. It has to be in my budget. It has to be a part of my plan. It can't be accidental or incidental. Now, do emergencies come up? Absolutely, emergencies come up. But you prepare for those emergencies by having a budget which knows that emergencies happen. So you begin to prepare. We talked about emergency funds, and originally in our original budget, remember we said we had 3% of our income that we would divide towards our emergency fund. Well, look, when you use a high value whole life insurance policy, the cash that's accessible to you becomes your emergency fund. In case anything happens, you're one policy loan away from that being solved. And then your repayment policy was sometimes, again, in the case of your retirement, you're not even looking to pay back. You're not even looking to pay it back. And what are they going to do? Look, think about this. Is that if you're thinking about you own your own car, you're making payments on that car. So if you stop making payments, what do? They come and get their car. You own your own home. You just closed. You're excited. It's wonderful. And I'm excited with you. But if you don't make any payments on that house, guess what happens? They come and take it from you because it's their house until you get the actual deed or you've paid them for their house. So let's change our perspective. Let's get ready to own our own life. Control our own finances. You control your money. You control your life. You make the choice. Not Sam. Sam doesn't say how much I'm going to take from you and then this how much I'm going to give you back. No. You make the choices. Stop looking forward to your tax return coming back. Maximize your money right now. Put more money in your pocket and more money in your life and more money into your future immediately. Now, before I go, I'm going to dispel this because I know some of you are thinking, look, I'm already good. I got my 401k on the job. I got my I have a 401k on the job. I got my 403b. I'm all set. Now, here's the trick between the 403b, 401k, your IRA account, your tax-deferred accounts. That's a setup. It's not designed to save you money. It's designed to make more money for taxable income. Let me ask you a question. Would you rather right now, say you have 60%, $60,000 right now, you got $60,000 in your 401k. Now, would you rather pay 20% tax or 25% tax bracket? Let's say, would you rather pay 25% on $60,000, which in this case, that would be $10, $6, $12, $15,000 you pay right now? Or let that mature for 30 years, in which case you probably have about 400, 420, right in there, about 420,000 in that account, and then pay taxes on that amount when it comes out. Now, 25% stand. That's saying the taxes don't rise, which they will. That's saying that nothing extraordinary happened. You're at a 25% tax bracket at that point. So now, what would have been what, $15,000 30 years ago? You waited, it marinated, you saved it, but saved it for who? So now you got $400,000. Let's take 25% of that, why don't we? That's $100,000. Which would you rather do? Give up $15,000 now or $100,000 later? Given that choice, everybody should make the same decision. $15,000 now. Let me pay you and get you out of my life. And then earn that other $100,000 in a tax-free environment. So, guys, I don't think I can tell you any more reasons that you should have, or any more reasons why you would want to have your own bank. And here's the secret. I know some of you are looking at me right now. You're saying to yourself, but I'm not ready. I'm not ready. I'm not ready. You are ready. Start where you are right now and change your life. You simply have to choose. If you choose, I know how to help you get there. If you choose, there's a pathway to get there. If you choose and decide and commit, there's a way for you to get there, and there's a way for you to get there that's not very far off. So I want to thank you guys today, man. If you have any questions, go ahead and feel free. We'll be answering questions in the comments long after this is over. You can request information from us. Inbox me if you need to, or you can contact Comeback Nation. And I look forward to seeing you on the other side.